Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why I might be changing my mind about Baker Mayfield.
And I'm Cowherd, and I'll tell you why, despite what Tom Brady says, I haven't lost any respect for Bill Belichick. Speak for yourself starts now. I think I may like him more today.
Awesome show today. Don't adjust your television. I do look this good. All right, hello and welcome. Shout out to my boy Stuart Varney and all you soccer fans watching. Thanks for tuning in. Joining us today are NBA analysts Jim Jackson and Steven Jackson. No relation. All right, let's start in Boston, where the depleted Celtics blew out the Sixers in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference semis with huge games from Terry Rozier, Jason Tatum, and Al Horford. Meanwhile, Philly was ice cold from the field, but after the game, Joel Embiid said the real problem was on the other side of the court.
This starts on defense, I thought we were all bad tonight, so that's not what we are, definitely. I think, when everybody is on, we're the best defensive team in the game, and, there's a lot of stuff with game plan that we didn't execute.
All right, Cowherd, have the Celtics taken control of this series? Should they be the favorites?
Yeah, I watched Bill Belichick last night. Every time the Patriots are in a game, Jacksonville, Seattle, Super Bowl, Atlanta, we never feel they have the best players. And it always ends the same way. We're like, how did they win? Jacksonville had all the great players. And I'm watching that game last night. At one point, they are pounding Philly with Shane Larkin, 20-year-old Jason Tatum, Aaron Baines, Terry Rozier, who wouldn't start unless Kyrie Irving was hurt, and Marcus Smart with a bad hand.
Shooting hand at that.
Okay, and they're pounding Philly on a day rest. Like, this is what Belichick does in football. The two best coaches in American pro sports now are in Boston. One's the football coach, and one's the hoops coach.
I'm not ready to jump ship on Philadelphia. I'm going to write this off to a young team feeling itself, reading its press clippings, not realizing that the first round of the playoffs is different than the second round. The second round is different from the conference finals, and the finals are different from the NBA finals. And so I just don't think the level of intensity, I think it caught Philly off guard. Boston was more ready. I'm going to wait one more game. Boston at home, playing well. They lost all their road games in the previous series against Milwaukee. I'm going to wait one more game before I jump ship on Philly.
Well, a couple of things. I think the Sixers are still favored. I think they're still in that prime position. But what you have, and this is to further your point about Boston, I'm a huge Steelers fan. We play New England, I cringe every time. This year, first down, end of the game, we got the ball. We go 9 yards, but it's a penalty. Now it's first and 20 instead of second and 1. We beat ourselves. New England doesn't. That's what Boston did. Boston out-executed this Philly team who wasn't ready for the multiple movements and screen and the activity. Because Steven, you know this, when you're not as talented, what happens? You have to out-execute your opponent. And you got to think about it. Brad Stevens has been doing this since he's been at Butler. Right. When he got the back-to-back Final Fours, he wasn't the most talented team. But they out-executed teams. They didn't turn the basketball over. They shot the ball well from the free throw line. All those components, as you saw last night, is what happened in that game. But I still think the Sixers are favored. But this Boston team, it's going to be tough to beat.
I still have this series is even as it would be if it was 0-0. Philly still have the better talent, the two stars, Embiid and Simmons. But Embiid said it. They didn't execute. They didn't follow their game plan. And it showed last game. Boston came out. They stuck to their game plan. They outplayed them, played harder, and wanted the game more, and it showed. I think next game they'll make some adjustments, but like Embiid said, next game they'll follow their game plan, and they'll be ready. It'll be a different outcome.
If I had better ingredients, you were the better chef, who'd make the better meal? You.
Yeah, I have more experience at cooking.
I go out to dinner.
Yeah, but that margin of error is slimmer, too, with Boston.
The chef makes the better meal. There's also, I like Philadelphia. I said a couple weeks ago, I can't wait to watch them play. I go to the TV set more for the Sixers than LeBron. There's 4 things about the Sixers, though. Do we need to pump the brakes a little? Number 1, Embiid got hurt again last night. Markelle Fultz is available and a DNP. What's their track record? They got hot against bad teams in the East late and beat Miami. Ben Simmons, last 4 minutes, can he shoot a free throw? I like them a lot.
They're still a young team.
They got some issues, and I think all of those are legitimate.
I agree, but I want to ask you two former players that you won an NBA championship. there are levels to the playoffs. There's a different level of intensity that I don't think Philadelphia was ready for, especially with all the adulation and celebration of what they did in the first round and everybody anointing them, they're going to go to the Eastern Conference Final. I just don't think they handled the success well.
Adulation, I'll ask you about that later. But yes, you're exactly right. Making those same threes in regular season is a totally different shot in that second round. You can't, everybody can't make shots in the playoffs and make them in the regular season. It's tougher. So you're right. It's another level of basketball. Each possession is tighter, and every team and every player is not built for those moments. So we'll see, like Rozier, he's showing us, I'm built for this moment. Kyrie's not around, I can step up and play big. So everybody's not built for this moment. We'll see in these games.
But keep in mind, the Sixers had a chance. They broke the league down a couple of times to about 6 points, but couldn't get over the hump. Defensively, they got to make adjustments. Let's go back to your Golden State team, back when you played Dallas. Okay, everybody figured that Dallas was the more talented team, but you had the better matchup.
Right.
They couldn't match up with you. You're going to see a little bit of this in this Boston series where, from a matchup perspective, Brad Stevens is going to put Philadelphia players in situations where they're going to have to think once, twice, 3, 4 times, multiple times when they're guarding the ball. So now that's going to open up opportunity.
And you making J.J. Redick,
Bellinelli,
you're making those guys guard.
That's
they
right.
Went at
Yeah,
Redick
exactly.
every chance they could.
Yes.
Mistake that the Pacers didn't make against Cleveland. Kyle Korver we talked about.
Right.
Right, to Toronto, where the Raptors, the baby dinosaurs, host LeBron and company in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference semis tonight, baby. After the Pacers took the Cavs a long 7 games, LeBron said series tired him out. Raptors coach Dwayne Casey says, I'm not buying it. And today, LeBron didn't even seem to remember saying it.
How do you overcome the challenge of minutes and rest, in the second round? You had mentioned that, that was a bit of an issue. How are you feeling?
I never mentioned it was an issue. You mentioned it was an issue. It wasn't an issue. It's what I had to do to help us get to the second round, and we worry about the second round now that we're here.
For his career, LeBron plays as well against the Raptors in the playoffs as any other team. 8-2, highest three-point percentage, second highest field goal percentage, 4th most points. Whitlock, you expect LeBron and the Cavs to run away with the series?
No, I really don't. And I expect him to win the series. But I think this is a 7-game series.
Yep.
I really believe that. And I think we're going to see a monster performance from LeBron James. I don't think fatigue is going to be an issue. I think it starts tonight with LeBron being even better than what we just saw in the Pacers series. And I don't know if he can be any better than that, but he will be. This is a 7-game series to me, though.
I agree it's a long series. These are not knockout artists. Golden State can knock you out early. Houston. If these were boxers, this would be Larry Holmes. He's just going to jab, body shots, wear you down, and we'll look up. These teams aren't good enough to knock the other guy out. You're not going to get 50-point quarters. This series is going to have 18 guys who are going to play. We've got one superstar, and DeMar DeRozan's good. It's a bunch of hard-working guys who you hope go to double figures in points. This is not Tyson in his prime here. It's going to be long, at times ugly, at times low scoring. And to your point, I would probably lean LeBron because he'll have the ball late in all the games.
Well, I'll lean on Cleveland as well, but I think DeRozan's going to have a coming out party. The last couple of years he played against LeBron in these playoffs, he hasn't lived up to what everybody expected. But, LeBron went home, reloaded on his vibranium. He's going to be ready. He's going to go out there and have the game he normally does. We're going to worry about the bench, what they're going to do. Because they playing against a team that has a nice starting 5 and can go 4 or 5 deep on the bench. So it's going to be a good series, but I see Cleveland winning it.
I do, too, and I think from DeRozan's perspective, we were talking about this on your show or on Undisputed earlier, it's been DeRozan's drop-off. Last year, he averaged 27 points. During the regular season, only 20 during the playoffs. Shooting percentage is down. This year, also, his numbers are down 17 points compared to 23 against Cleveland. So Cleveland's done an excellent job of taking one of those players out of the equation, and has been DeRozan for the most part. So give J.R. Smith a lot of credit for that. But from a LeBron perspective coming in, how about the mental fatigue? I don't see LeBron being able to go out tonight mentally and having 45, 50 points. I think what he'll try to do is distribute, get his guys involved earlier. I think George Hill has to be big today. Calderon has to be big. Because from a mental perspective, we got to understand, and you notice, Steve, what we're asking LeBron to do and what Cleveland is asking LeBron to do coming off that 7 game, to try to do that once again on the road against a motivated Toronto team is going to be tough.
It's going to be tough. And Casey, he's seen what LeBron did last series against Indiana. He's not going to let LeBron go out there and get 40 a night.
But what would you do? Would you stay at home, take away the other opportunity, say, LeBron, you just got to get your 50?
You got to take away. You got to guard LeBron and let the other guys score because they haven't done anything all year. What has the bench done? That's all we've been talking about is Cleveland bench. You let LeBron get his. Stop LeBron and let these other guys score because they haven't scored all year.
By the way, I know you think sometimes Whitlock, he's a relegator, but there's no other great player in the league other than LeBron who drives to the arena for a series and has no idea who's going to play well. Steph knows KD is. KD knows Clay is. Listen, even now with the Celtics, Horford's going to play. Rozier's going to play. Jason Tatum's going to play. There's a little added dimension to why LeBron is going so crazy, dominating the ball. When you drive to work and you don't know who's going to show up, every other guy in the playoffs does.
Well, you got to want other people to show up.
Exactly.
You have to play a style that allows people to show up more often. Again, and I'm not dumping on LeBron. He's a unique talent. He's got so many skills. He's got every skill that it's almost too much talent. And so I'm not blaming LeBron. I'll say this, though. I disagree with you all in terms of if LeBron starts dropping 45 and 50 on Toronto, they're going to melt. Mentally, they're going to melt. DeMar DeRozan, the Raptors. DeMar DeRozan, Kyle Lowry, they can't take it when LeBron beats up on them. I think it's intimidating to them. And then I think DeRozan will put pressure on himself to try to match LeBron, which he cannot do. Jim, you're the only person in America on this planet that thinks LeBron can't handle that 7-game series and then come back and beat up on the Raptors.
I didn't say he can't handle it. I said he's going to approach it a little bit different. I think his approach to the game, think about how LeBron thinks. He's going to come out and regulate a little bit more. He's going to come out and try to get players involved. I'm not saying that he's not going to get his numbers, but I'm saying he's not going to be, I don't think he's going to be ultra aggressive at the beginning of the game because he needs his teammates to get involved early and build off what they did in that fourth quarter.
The Raptors, I hate to use, no, I really don't. They're a booty call for LeBron. So do you take it easy?
But you think about LeBron. No, LeBron has a tendency. He plays extremely hard and well one game. He'll come out and be passive the first half of another game. That's just his M.O.
But he has to show more confidence in his teammates because that's the only way they're going to win this series. If the other guys play well, that's the only way they have a chance.
What does it tell you that Tristan Thompson was the step-up guy in the last game? They had abandoned Tristan Thompson. LeBron, if you'd have asked him driving to the arena, he's like, God, I hope Korver's hot. Well, I hope JR's hot.
You know what it tells me more than anything? They don't know what the hell they're doing. Why did they have Tristan Thompson sitting on the bench doing nothing? To me, that's the only thing that scares me is Tyronn Lue hasn't committed to anything as of yet.
Welcome back. Joined now by Fox NFL analyst Greg Jennings. So nice to have you here.
It's great to be
Need that
here.
big house in Minneapolis, the small suburbs.
Oh, my God.
Jason McIntyre, founder of The Big Lead. Let's move to Cleveland, where the Browns surprised a lot of people by drafting Baker Mayfield first overall. According to Baker Mayfield's agent, you can always trust those guys, there might have even been a bigger surprise if the Browns had passed on Baker.
We had another team which are going to surprise you. Another team had said, you may get a big surprise on draft day at number 2 if he's available. And it was the Patriots. I don't know. We thought, boy, that's going to be a heck of a move to get up that high from where they are.
Right.
And, of course, he wasn't available, so nothing. We never knew if that was a reality or not.
All right, Whitlock, does this validate Cleveland's decision to take Baker Mayfield number 1?
What it does, it just screams NFL people, football people, love Baker Mayfield more than you and I. And so I'm willing to say I must be missing something. I have a bias against short quarterbacks. I like them 6'2" or taller. But clearly football people love this guy, and if the New England Patriots had him graded high, I now understand a little bit more why the Browns were all in on him. He's just not my particular cup of tea.
Okay, so what did you and I establish over the last month with the Patriots? Belichick and Kraft have not great in the room with players right now. So they told us they were going to draft Lamar Jackson, had 2 opportunities, passed on both, right? Now, that was the thing they were going to do. Now they tell an agent who represents lots of players, hey, we may surprise you. They didn't. How do I know this stuff is true? They told me they were going to go after Lamar Jackson.
Number 1. The number 2 pick wasn't available.
Well, but again, you can tell people a lot. You can, again, Lamar worked him out twice.
I always saw Lamar as a second-round pick they had evaluated. That if he was there at the
So you buy
round,
this?
Yeah, I think there may be some truth to it, yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a lot of smoke.
Whether it's a lot of smoke or not, it doesn't validate the Browns taking Baker Mayfield number 1. They liked what they saw. And on a lot of teams' draft board, Baker Mayfield was high. This is an accomplished collegiate quarterback, Heisman winner, finished 4th and 3rd in 15 and 16. I mean, he's played at a high level, and he's gotten it done, and he's found a way to make these guys in the locker room and within that huddle buy into who he is and what he's able to do for that unit offensively. I like Baker Mayfield, and I like John Dorsey saying, I wasn't here when the prior regime made the mistake of Johnny Manziel. So what? This guy may resemble some of the things off the field sometimes, but we know what we're doing. We believe in who we are and what we're trying to get done. We're not going to deviate. This is the guy we like. I think that was a bold move.
First of all, I don't believe this story at all, but I think the mere fact that this agent is saying this is a bigger red flag on Baker Mayfield, okay? Think about it like this. They won. Baker Mayfield went 1st overall last week. Here you are 4 or 5 days after the draft trying to convince people, hey, man, the Patriots wanted this guy. The Browns made the right decision. I mean, this is like, what are you doing? What's the point of saying this? Where's the win here? Like, what are you trying to accomplish?
The downside is the Patriots could have leaked information that the New England didn't want out.
Well, New England would
After
never,
the fact,
ever
no one cares.
Yeah, no one cares.
I don't know.
This was a guy gossiping on a radio show. This is like what I live for as a broadcaster and as a journalist. An agent telling me, hey, here's what's going on behind the scenes. The information at this point is inconsequential.
You don't think this is still an allegedly? I mean, the Patriots will never dispute that. Bill
No,
Belichick
it's
will
all
never.
allegedly,
Right.
but you know how many times I've known you for 10 years. You know how much alleged information we've exchanged back and forth?
Yeah, but that's on a lesser scale. This is big money, $1 million stakes.
It's hurting no one.
By the way, New England also picked Ryan Mallett. It's not like they're perfect with quarterbacks. This stuff's hard.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, if we look, the only reason why we're even having this discussion is because it's the Cleveland Browns, and their track record has been horrendous when it comes to first-round draft picks, specifically at the quarterback position.
That's fair.
If this were anyone else, we wouldn't even be talking about this.
No, listen, if they had taken Sam Darnold, it would not be an issue. This is a 6-foot quarterback going 1st overall who has an ugly arrest on his record, who played in the Big 12 where they don't play any defense, and he carved up a bunch of bad teams. Like, this is a quarterback with a lot of questions. And all this stuff about every team wanted Baker Mayfield, I don't necessarily buy that. I believe this is a lot of alleged stuff.
Yeah.
And Baker Mayfield basically went into that interview and won over the room in Cleveland, and they took him.
Here's where I think you're a little bit astray is, at this point, they don't need to rehabilitate Baker Mayfield's reputation. He went number 1 overall. No. What's going to dictate it from here on out is what he does when he puts a helmet and shoulder pads on.
Without question.
He's going to control the narrative with his play and performance. So I don't think this is anybody trying to rehabilitate, trying to justify the pick. If there was a scam run, it was before the draft, and it worked. This is just the story behind the scenes. Who doesn't love this kind of stuff?
Listen, I think both you and I have said this. I don't think he's a bust. I don't think he's Manziel and Tebow. I never have. Now, I wouldn't tie my franchise to him because of the video and that stuff. But I've always said I think he's Case Keenum. Case Keenum went 13-3 this year. I'm not saying he can't play in the NFL. If this was Manziel and Tebow, they chose a guy that most people had as the 3rd guy on their board.
Right.
He's not a disaster.
You think most people had Baker Mayfield as the third quarterback?
Yeah, I think most people had Darnold and most people had Rosen.
Just think about this. You're just saying that he was Case Keenum, essentially. That's what he is. And the Browns took him number 1 overall and passed on Sam Darnold. Their fans right now are freaking out that they butchered the first pick and the 4th pick, where they should have taken Bradley.
The only thing that's going to change that, though, is what happens on the field. You're not going to talk the fans into being happy, and the fans don't need to be happy. It's May 1. They need to be happy come September, the second week in September, when the NFL kicks off, and we'll find out if the kid can
Exactly.
play.
When you let's look at Josh Rosen. If you take his size away from him, are we talking about Josh Rosen?
Yeah, but you can't take
it. Exactly. You can't do that. But my point is, this is why we're knocking Baker Mayfield, because he's undersized. He's not the prototypical guy. He's not that quarterback that you want to see walking off the bus, if you will, that's going to lead your team, because we typically don't see that. That's not what we are familiar with. But this kid has won games. He performed better than Josh Rosen this year. Did he not?
All right, welcome back. Greg Jennings and Jason McIntyre are back. Let's move to Tom Brady, who just made an appearance at the Milken Institute Global Conference, where he engaged in a wide-ranging Q&A with Jim Gray. As usual, Gray made it a point to ask some hard-hitting questions.
Do you feel appreciated by them, and do they have the appropriate gratitude for what you have achieved?
I plead the fifth. Man, that is a tough question. Yeah, I mean, everybody in general wants to be appreciated more at work, in their professional life. But there's a lot of people that appreciate me more than, way more than I ever thought, was possible as part of my life.
Do you know why Malcolm Butler didn't play? It's what all of you want to know. You can moan and groan all you want. They want to know the answer to that.
Yeah. I wish you would have played, but, the coach decided not to play him, and we still had a chance to win. For a team, this is, this side of the room is the offense, and this side of the room is the defense. We don't interfere with them much. I didn't know. Malcolm kept coming over to me during the game. He's like, come on, TB, let's go, And I kept going, what defense are we in where Malcolm's not on the field? Is it like, short yard, goal line? And then after the game, I found out. So I just didn't know, and I asked Malcolm, and Malcolm said, I don't know, coach has just decided something different. And I said, okay. So I don't know what was a part of that decision-making, but I know we were trying to win the game. I don't think we were trying to do anything but win.
All right, Cowherd. Brady also skipped voluntary team workouts. Are you okay with how Brady's handling the offseason?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Michael Jordan's Hall of Fame speech, he was still testy. Tom's a driven guy. Tom lost a Super Bowl. Tom probably hates his off seasons when Mario Manningham and David Tyree make a catch or they lose. Tom's probably pissy all off season knows. Tom's really happy and stays an extra week in Costa Rica when Edelman makes the catch or Malcolm Butler intercepts Russell Wilson. Tom's off season has been that of a superstar who lost a huge game. He's been at times, a little unhappy. He seems to have gotten over it. That didn't seem bitter.
Malcolm Coach. Malcolm Coach. One guy's name, the other guy is just Coach.
Well, he is Coach.
He's been with this guy for 18 years, and you don't think he ever calls him Bill when they're on better terms? Again, I like the way he's handling the offseason because somebody needs to put some pressure on Bill Belichick, and Tom Brady's about the only guy that can do it. And so I'm glad he skipped the OTAs. I'm glad he's talking about this very publicly. He's basically trying to shame Belichick into an explanation that he owes Patriots fans and the 53 guys on that team and the ownership and the season ticket holders. Belichick needs to explain that damn decision.
Because he called him Coach?
If I'm on TV saying my co-host instead of Colin,
hot shots.
People would be like, "Damn, what's up?"
Look, I'm perfectly fine with it. We have this idea of what we think quarterbacks and how quarterbacks should carry themselves all throughout their career. And Tom Brady, up until this point, has always been that trademark. For the first time, we're seeing him rebuttal and speak out and say things that we've never really quite heard him say and do things that we've never really seen him do. He has earned the right to do that. He has won a lot of Super Bowls that no one else has won. He has been one of the main reasons if not one of the only consistent reasons as a player that affords them the opportunity to be in the position that they're constantly in and year out. Bill Belichick has a role that he's played, but Tom Brady, you take him away from this team, they're not the favorites to win this year again. But because they have a Tom Brady and all of a sudden he's speaking up, finally, in my opinion, if I was in that locker room, I guarantee other players, Tom, man, you need to say something.
Thank you.
You need to say something.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you. He has been the one constant over 18 years. The wide receivers are interchangeable. The running backs move around. He's the one that's been there. I kind of like what he's doing this offseason. Think about this, guys. He is a MVP quarterback at the age of 40. He goes to the Super Bowl. This stuff has not been done before. And Bill Belichick still treats him like the second-year quarterback in the film room, undressing him, joking about the Foxborough High School quarterback coming into the room and completing a pass. And I just think Tom Brady's kind of sick of it. You know, like your senior year in high school, right? You've been under your parents' wing the whole time, and you want to spread your wings and get out now. And you don't want to come in at 11 o'clock when it's bedtime. And you don't want to listen to them for curfew. And I think Tom Brady, honestly, is sick of it. He feels, listen, I've done stuff that nobody's ever done. I'm ready.
I think Greg makes a really good point here, is that Tom heard from players. You know, Brett Favre at the end of his career lost a connection to rookies. I remember reading a story, and it's like Brett was 40 and they're all 20. Brady in the last several years has gone out and hired somebody to update him on all the technology and the music. To Greg's point, some of this is Tom thinking, I'm going to play for 3 more years. I have to have credibility with 24-year-old teammates. This sort of aloof, detached coach, Instagram, probably plays pretty well in the room with 25-year-old corners and wide receivers.
I think of what you're saying is true, but it's not more true than he was asked a direct question. Do you feel appreciated by Bill Belichick and the Patriots? And he pled the fifth. And you want to sit here and act like there's no problem here? When you played 18 years for a guy, delivered 5 Super Bowls, carried him to 8, and he can't I feel appreciated, of course. You don't think there's anything to read into that?
No, I do think they've had Big Ben and Tomlin. Big Ben takes shots at him during the season.
They ain't won 5 Super Bowls together.
Well, Marino had his...
They didn't win 1 Super Bowl together.
Well, Jimmy Johnson and Aikman didn't always get along, and they won plenty. I think this thing is being overstated, but I do, to your point, think we got a little tension here. Elway and Shanahan. Aaron Rodgers, McCarthy.
I don't think it's being overstated. I don't think it's being overstated. There's something going on.
You buy into that coach thing?
I don't really care about that. We as media, we pick apart everything, but when it comes to the players, you look at his relationship with the guys in the locker room, he has a great relationship with the young guys in the locker room as well as the veteran guys in the locker room. The young guys always talk about Tom Brady this and how they get along with him doing this and that. Brett took himself out of the locker. He still had great relationships. He didn't get dressed in the locker room. He has his own office. So there was a disconnect. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. With Tom Brady, there is no disconnect inside the locker room.
Here's where the disconnect is happening between Belichick and the players. And so I want to put you and everybody, have you lost any respect for Belichick this offseason?
No.
None. 0. On a scale of 100, if the respect was at 100, it's still at 100. You talking about none.
Okay. Warren Buffett did not invest in Amazon and lost $500 million. I'd still give my portfolio to him. If everybody in the league could choose a head coach today, we'd all choose Belichick.
We would.
Who would you choose?
We would. Malcolm Butler would.
Well,
Nate Solder would.
I said if every team in the league didn't have a coach, and you'd say, Jason, you're a GM, who's your coach? You'd pick Bill.
I would have 10 years ago, 5 years ago. The Malcolm Butler decision is selfish. That's why Brady still has a problem. The guy's ego is out of control. Someone's got to hold him accountable. No, today I would not choose Belichick. Because the man won't even explain the dumbest decision in Super Bowl history where he cheated 53 other guys out of the opportunity to win a Super Bowl over some BS. No, I've lost respect, not all. I've lost some respect. I've always been a big Bill Belichick guy. So on a scale of 1 to 100, let's say I was 95.
What are you now?
70.
Oh,
75.
Jason, how about this?
That's a lot.
What if I said, based on the draft, that I gained some respect for Belichick, and here's why. They could have easily traded up for Baker Mayfield or gotten Lamar Jackson, and guess what the topic would be all offseason? Well, they got Tom's replacement. Tom's looking over his shoulder. Belichick didn't draft a quarterback until, the 6th or 7th round, Danny Etling. Is that not an olive branch? Hey, Tom, you're my guy. You're going to be 41. I'm not going to draft a quarterback early.
Sound like an olive
You're
branch
my
thing.
guy.
I don't think he heard it as an olive branch. Did you hear something about an olive branch? I heard him plead the fifth. I heard him call him coach. The draft had happened when this interview happened. I don't think Brady saw it as an olive branch.
Not at all. And I haven't lost respect for Belichick.
You've lost none.
I've lost. When you say
the Malcolm Butler decision, none.
I question Bill Belichick now. Where in prior is like, how can you question?
So what
him?
do you question? His integrity?
Absolutely. And I question his delusion that you can make that decision and feel like there's 53 guys you stand in front of every day. Do your job. Team over everything. You sit and preach, and then you do something stupid and you don't have to tell anybody.
Do you
anything.
question Steven Spielberg's filmmaking after Indiana Jones 4 bombed? Do you question his filmmaking? You don't question Belichick's coaching. You didn't like a personnel move.
Yeah.
But to
in
Jason's
the Super Bowl.
Jason's point, you make a really good point, and I think that's where a lot of the players.
him.
No, I think that's where a lot of the players are at, and I think that's really where Tom Brady is at. You tell us every single day to do our job, and the one time in the biggest game of all of our careers, you do this, and we're trying to do our job. You don't let one of our better players do his job because of some person, whatever it is.
Don't explain.
And don't explain it.
Jason, on some level, though, he is ruthless. This is who Bill Belichick has been in his entire career. Take your favorite show, The Wire. How many characters on that are ruthless and do things that maybe you don't agree with, but man, he is a ruthless leader. That's what he does. That's what got him here. Some guys in business, you like to reference these business guys, sometimes they've got to make ruthless, brutal decisions that not everybody agrees with, and it gets you to the top.
And let me say, if it was it's not a ruthless decision we're debating, though. It's a stupid decision. There's 53 people in that locker room think that was stupid.
Okay.
There's uniformity on that. So it's not about, we know Belichick's ruthless. He just did something stupid, and he's so arrogant now that he doesn't even think he has to explain.
I don't think it was as stupid as you think. In the previous 2 playoff games, Blake Bortles and Marcus Mariota.
That they won.
The
final scoreboard,
right.
They won.
Those 2 against Malcolm Butler alone had a quarterback rating of 146.
Shredded him.
They won.
Well, New England was a play from that.
Who do you think knows more, Tom Brady or you? Or that completion percentage versus Malcolm Butler? I'm going to take Tom Brady's word and everybody else on that damn team.
But Tom's emotional. He's emotionally vested, so of course he's angry. It didn't affect my legacy. It affected his legacy.
Thank you. And that's why the man needs to explain it. If we all in this together, he has to be accountable too. It would be like me sitting up preaching, oh, Colin, you're eating unhealthy. And you'd be like, what? Didn't I just see you with a slab of ribs? That's great. And, again, you can't do what Belichick did without explaining.
No doctor's ever said ribs are unhealthy, so I don't buy your premise. Ribs are delicious, always. All right, welcome back. Steven Jackson's back. Now Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard. Let's move to LeVar Ball, who announced last week his family's career in Lithuania Pro Hoops was coming to a premature end after a few short months. Even the Lithuanian press was done with the Ball family. A reporter saying the country got bored. The whole experience was, quote, sad. Whitlock, are LeVar Ball's 15 minutes up?
They might be, and LeVar may be responsible for running out the clock. He's destroyed LaMelo's career at this point. So, yeah, I think his 15 minutes might be up.
Lonzo's still his son. Lonzo's still a Laker. He's in the outrageous business. And, by the way, Lithuania, you can say stuff and nobody hears it. He'll come into L.A., Lakers go on a 4-game losing streak. He'll question Luke Walton, and you and I are on debate shows and interview shows, and people will talk about it, and it'll be in the L.A. Times, and all of a sudden it's on USA Today, and it ignites a fire.
I'm with you, Colin. As long as Lonzo's still in the league, he's going to have a platform to speak. And next year, the expectations will be higher for Lonzo and for the Lakers to win more games, so he's going to have more to talk about. And with Jello and Melo kind of out of the picture, now it's all about Lonzo, at least out of the picture for the time being. It's going to be all about Lonzo. It's been nice these few months when he's been gone because we haven't heard a lot of this, which usually the media wouldn't say that because it's fodder for us. But it's been nice that he hadn't made these comments. Next year, he'll probably ratchet it up with the Lakers.
I think it's over for him, but if he can get that league that he's trying to get going, I think that'll give him the platform he needs.
Yeah, good
Young
luck with
kids
that.
are not, a lot of the McDonald's All-Americans were like, please.
Look, they had 10 people in that Lithuanian gym. They said the Facebook views were down to 3,000 or 4,000 people viewing from 100,000. The clock is ticking and running out on the
You don't
bar
think
ball.
another outrageous comment by him, though?
I think we're used to it. It would be like,
by the way,
walking on me with a double cheeseburger. You wouldn't be shocked anymore.
Listen, remember Snooki from Jersey Shore? She's back on TV. Outrageous.
It took a few years, though.
She left for a couple.
So maybe they go for it.
If Snooki's still around, LeVar Ball's got a life.
You got a good point right there. All right, let's end it on that one.
To San Antonio, where the drama between Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs is still percolating. Reportedly, Kawhi and his camp resent the team's closed-mindedness about his injury and their apparent efforts to pressure him to return, with one confidant saying they're making him look bad. You have this seamless transition from the Duncan era to the new era, this homegrown superstar. Like, why would you alienate him? Cowherd, do you think Greg Popovich can repair this relationship?
Those are real quotes. I've said before, Kawhi is different. He's different. He's nonverbal. He hires an uncle to do his business. Trust is big. In high school coaches and college coaches never gave him love. This is a young man who's not verbal, who doesn't trust a lot of people, walks into a fishbowl in San Antonio, and the coach calls him out. Good luck repairing that.
This is the first star that Pop can't control. He's not from Argentina. He's not from France. He's not from St. Croix. He's from San Diego, right here in California. He thinks different. This is the first superstar, and I will say this on TV, that Pop has had that has braids. This is a different type of superstar you have now, Pop. So he wants to do things his way. But Pop can fix this relationship. Give him the Supermax. Money always fixes things, especially when he wants what he's worth. I think if they don't improve that team and give him what he wants, I think he'll walk.
Yeah, I've been told from Kawhi's side that, look, they're saying Pop is so confident in his ability to repair relationships like he did with LaMarcus Aldridge that he thinks he's just going to put his arm around Kawhi and say, hey, that was just to, get these guys fired up or get you on the court, give them confidence, whatever.
It don't work with real
and that's what I was told. Look, and I was even told if the Supermax is offered, it's not a certainty or guarantee they would take it. I'm with you. I think they would. But that's what I was told. So he's got a long way to go to repair this.
But Pop is old.
Right.
If I'm the Spurs, does it ever cross my mind, hey, maybe it's a good time to transition to a different coach if we have this young player that we think has another 8 years left? Does Pop have 8 more years left? Would the Spurs ever consider maybe it's the Pop's wife just passed, maybe it's a time for him to think about retiring?
Well, me personally, I thought he was going to step down once Tim left. That relationship was so tight. I thought once Tim retired, then Pop was going to step down. But it may be time for that. But how can you tell a great coach like that it's time for him to step down?
Yeah.
But Kawhi, I know Kawhi, I talk to him a lot of times. He loves San Antonio. He loves being a winner. And if he can go somewhere else and still be a winner and still be a great player, that's a great option.
There's this perception, and you know Kawhi, you play with him. There's this perception that he's not that smart because he doesn't talk a lot.
Right.
But tell us, I think he is very smart, and that's what I'm told, too.
It's no other player in this game that wants to be one of the greatest when they retire. Kawhi wants to be one of the best players to ever play this game. He's focused on that. And he understands that he don't have to say it. He gonna walk it like he talk it. He gonna go out there and just prove it in his game. He doesn't have to, he's not one of those guys that's gonna go out there and talk. He's a great teammate. He's not a negative guy. So when they came in the media and was kind of going at him from the teammate side, from Tony Parker and Ginobili, that's unusual from the Spurs. And it caught him off guard because this never happens in this organization. So all of a sudden, the team's not good and things are not going y'all way. Now y'all gonna come at me? It's not right. You can't do that with your star.
That's to me why, okay, let's say you don't move away from Pop, but maybe his old school guys, Tony Parker and Manu, maybe they need to go so it can just be clearly Kawhi's team and not Pop and his good old boys.
That's holding him back.
Yeah, Manu, again, is great. You know, he can average 8 points at 40 years old or whatever. Man. But maybe it's time to move on from him and Tony Parker.
This story from the very beginning has been fascinating to me. A star player basically disappears from his team. And every time I read it, between your sources, between Ramona Shelburne, between, who at Woj, the sources are all saying the same thing. Kawhi's side's not happy. And it can't all be the same source. This stuff's getting out, and it's getting out because people want it out. I think Kawhi's camp is deeply hurt and has lost trust.
Well, and I'm told that they're like, whenever we see the Spurs, it's all good. Mm-hmm. Like, in our faces, they're saying, they've got trainers up in New York with Kawhi. Mm-hmm. They knew we were getting a second opinion. They said it was okay. They knew we were going to be in New York during the playoffs. They said it was okay. We see Pop, there's texting here and there. And then we see these anonymous sources coming out, ripping Kawhi, and they're like, it's not coming from us.
Right.
So it must be coming from you. So there's some two-facedness there.
And then you got Tony, Ginobili, Tim, they all went through injury. Have any one of their injuries ever been questioned? This is a Defensive Player of the Year, Finals MVP. He's not playing, things are not going your way, San Antonio, all of a sudden, now you're questioning your star. It never happens in the organization, and that's why Kawhi's upset.
Do you think he wants to be, he wants to stay in San Antonio, though, if they could fix it?
Yeah, I think he wants to be in San Antonio. I don't think it's that big of a problem where he wants to leave, but at the same time, some things have to be shaken up.
This quote in the story that this was a seamless transition. I don't know if it's been a seamless transition from the Duncan era to this new era. Because, again, Manu and Tony Parker are still representatives of an older era.
Yes.
And now, again, he had a problem with LaMarcus Aldridge that he had to solve last offseason. Another new guy, not a part of the old era. And now Kawhi, they need to move on from Manu and Parker. Welcome to the show. I'm Jason Whitlock, and I'll tell you why one of Colin Kaepernick's closest allies making a huge mistake taking on the NFL.
And I'm Colin Cowherd. I'm dealing at the Mirage later today, and I'll tell you why Russell Westbrook is about to drive another star into OKC. Stephen liked that one. Speak for yourself starts now.
Steven Adams is leaving?
I said Steven Jackson. Oh, you're talking about Steven Adams.
Steven Adams is leaving. It's only star in OKC. All right, hello and welcome. Shout out to my guy Stuart Varney and all you soccer fans. Again, thanks for tuning in. We're joined today by NBA analyst Steven Jackson and Chris Broussard. Let's start in Toronto, where the Cavaliers came back from a big early deficit to beat the Raptors last night in a game where they didn't even have their first lead until overtime. LeBron finished with a triple-double, but struggled from the field, and after the game, he gave his teammates all the praise for the big victory.
And my teammates, they were unbelievable tonight. They stepped up when I wasn't wasn't at my best. I definitely wasn't efficient as I'd like to be. I missed a lot of open looks, a lot of open threes that they were going under. A lot of floaters in the lane. Because of the injury I had in Game 7, I didn't get an opportunity to kind of get on the court this morning and yesterday as well. So, but at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is trying to get a win. Probably one of my worst games of the season.
Do you feel like you guys let one get away? For sure, without a doubt. We had many opportunities to close this game out. Like you said, we couldn't buy a bucket. We got some great looks. We had a lot of shots point blank at the rim that went in and out.
All right, just like the Pacers in round one, Toronto had a chance to put LeBron and company away, but couldn't get it done when it mattered most, missing shot after shot in the fourth quarter. Cowherd, who's to blame for the Raptors' collapse?
Their stars, Lowry and DeRozan. Listen, we give these stars all the love. They get the shoe deals. They get talked about on our show. They get the big Instagram accounts. But don't blame the sixth man. Don't blame the defensive guy when you lose a playoff game, because it's star territory. And when Washington loses, it's on John Wall, it's on Westbrook, and that's on DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. That was there. You're at home. You lead by double digits. That's where the Stars have plays designed for them.
I'm going to sound like you on this. I blame LeBron James. He made the shot that put him into overtime. And to me, his defense on Kyle Lowry in certain stretches, I blame LeBron James for the collapse. I wasn't surprised by it. We've seen it before. This is what they do when LeBron James is on the court. He's the key ingredient. It's like, hey, he's always the common denominator. It's great what he got from his role players and his secondary players, but at the end of the day, I'm going to blame LeBron James for the Toronto collapse.
Let me say this. The Toronto Raptors are a well-run franchise. Masai Ujiri, their GM, is terrific. Dwayne Casey, last night notwithstanding, is a very good coach. But there is I don't want to get too spooky, but there's a spirit over that franchise like they're second rate.
Yeah.
I don't know. It might be because they're not in America, but they've never been able to keep a superstar. Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, Chris Bosh. They're building their team knowing they're second rate. Kyle Lowry, very good player, but was a journeyman before he went there. DeMar DeRozan, a star, not a superstar. And look at outside of those two guys, basically everybody else is international. They're getting guys that will stay in Toronto. They're not ready for prime time.
They're not.
So they'll be a good regular season team, first, second round, something like that. But they're not a prime time team.
Totally agree.
And that kind of engulfs the entire franchise.
I agree.
Yeah, I definitely agree. They've been a great regular season team for years, last couple of years. So it's not a surprise what they do in regular season. Me personally, I thought DeMar DeRozan was going to have a come-on-out party. I thought he was going to play well. I thought he was going to be able to be the guy to finish games for them in the playoffs. I was wrong. I was totally wrong. They both had a meltdown. But on another note, Cleveland has to thank Indiana and Toronto. Indiana blew that series, and Toronto last night, what I seen was all these games that teams are giving Cleveland, you're giving guys like J.R. Smith, Kevin Love, enough time to get a rhythm. Now, it's not going to be just said that Cleveland is not going to win the East, because now the role guys are starting to get a rhythm. LeBron's been carrying this team all this time. Now, Indiana, you give Cleveland all these games. Toronto, you give them the game last night. The other guys are getting a rhythm. They're going to be a dangerous team now the other guys are starting to play well.
Listen, there is something to be said. Who's winning the East right now? The one superstar player, LeBron James, and the one superstar coach, Brad Stevens. Who's winning the West right now? Superstar Curry Durant, superstar Harden. Like our entire lives, there's only been a couple of teams, the Sonics in the 70s and the Pistons over the Lakers, where stars, Rip Hamilton was a star. This is what happens. This is superstar territory.
I think, though, there's a cloud over the franchise. But it always rains the hardest when LeBron is there. And so, again, I think some guys, again, when LeBron said, you know what, I'm going to take Kyle Lowry out of the game. Oh, and if necessary, I'll take DeMar DeRozan out of the game. Those guys melt. They couldn't even get the ball in bounds at a critical time. Dwayne Casey, I've been caping up for him all year. They didn't have a sideline out of bounds play at crunch time and got a 5-second call. It blew my mind.
But you know why that is? It's LeBron because he's really the only player in the East of that echelon. If they play Boston, they're not meeting anybody that's better than DeMar. If they play Philadelphia, they're a bunch of young kids. If they were in the West, Kevin Durant would do it to him. Steph Curry would do it to him. Harden would do it to him. Any of the real superstars would do this to the Raptors.
If you watch the game last night, the young guys, the only guys that didn't show like they were rattled. They defended LeBron well. The two young guys, they played well. The stars didn't show up, and that's what we've been seeing in regular season. They've shown up. Playoffs, they haven't been showing up, so it's not a surprise.
All the guys that we bragged about all year. Dwayne Casey had a bad night. DeRozan, Lowry, the big fella missed layup after layup. Van Vliet missed his two big shots.
How did he get the two big shots? Van Vliet. Who? How? I mean, seriously, how?
DeRozan driving and kicking. That's how he got the big one.
Steph Curry had a really strong return. The Warriors held on to win a really good game 2 against New Orleans. Pelicans played well. The game featured some serious jawing between Draymond Green and Rondo right before halftime, which actually prompted Charles Barkley to go after Draymond on the air.
I just want to punch him in the face.
You don't like Draymond? Yo, Jay in
I
Atlanta.
want to punch him in the face.
Why you
so
don't like
bad.
Draymond?
I'm just telling you, I want to punch his ass in the face. I do.
I think a lot of guys talk on TV, stand behind a microphone and a TV screen. Fact of the matter is, if you feel that strongly about something, he's seen me a million times. If he feel that strongly about it, then punch me in my face when you see me. If you're not going to punch me in my face when you see me, then shut up. It's no different than somebody sitting behind a computer screen tweeting, I'll knock you out, and you never see him in life. Well, he's seen me a bunch of times, and he'll see me again this year. Punch me in the face when you see me, or if not, no one cares what you would have done. You old, and it is what it is. So if you ain't going to punch me when you see me, then stop talking about it. Period.
I actually like Barkley and Draymond Green's response. Whitlock, does Barkley owe Draymond an apology?
Huge Charles Barkley fan. Huge. Biggest fan. He's got to apologize here. He made a mistake. I think he's aware of it. I just don't think you sit on TV, particularly when your job is to market the game and disrespect one of your peers and colleagues, one of the stars, role player, whomever. It shouldn't have happened. I just think Charles got caught up in being Charles Barkley. He's a little over the top, and he's trying to be funny. I expect Charles to apologize and back away from these statements.
It's 2018. People have apologized for less. But, I mean, when you watch that, it was television. Like, I didn't take it seriously. Shaq's laughing. Kenny's laughing. Ernie laughing. Like, I never once thought, Charles going to punch him in the face.
I didn't think that, but you just don't say those type things.
Did it bother you?
Yeah, I mean, it bothered me, no, but I think he should apologize. I think he crossed the line. Like, he said things. He called LeBron's move when he went to Miami a punk move. He said things that are fine, but you can't advocate violence. That's the thing. I might give him a pass. I hate to say it this way, if I thought he really would punch him. But he's going to see Draymond in the Western Conference Finals, and it's not going to be any problem. Maybe he'll be like, try to smile in his face or whatever. But I think sometimes Charles thinks that what he says on camera, guys aren't really going to take that way. Because you've heard a lot of players say, well, when I see him, he's cool, and he'll laugh in my face and smile in my face. But then on TV, he's going to say stuff that's going to get you upset.
Yeah. So certain things, like you say, you just can't say. I think Draymond responded the way any man will respond. If you feel that way, then do it. If not, shut up. I think Shaq, like you said, he gets caught. I mean, not Shaq, excuse me. Charles get caught up too much in Chuck on TNT instead of being Charles Barkley. You can say certain things as being on TNT as that character as Chuck, but you got to live with those words. And you can't talk about you would punch him when it's a guy sitting 2 seats away from you that you had an actual fight with. If you don't have a problem with him, how could you have a problem with a guy that you don't barely even know? So Chuck, a lot of players respect Chuck, but when he's on TV being the character, being Chuck instead of Charles Barkley, that's what a lot of players don't respect.
Again, I think he made a mistake, and I think he's going to cop to it. I'll say this, and I'm throwing a bit of a curveball here, but between what Chuck just did, Russell Westbrook slapping at a fan, and last night, Kendrick Perkins and Drake getting into it. It's like, I don't think these things would be going on if David Stern were the commissioner of this league. I think Adam Silver is so soft, and there's so little respect for him that people are doing things completely out of character. Chris, you know very well, David Stern would go off on the television broadcasters. He'd call whoever's in control of ESPN or whoever it is. If he didn't like something that was being done on air, he would voice that opinion very strongly. I don't think Chuck would have made this mistake if David Stern were in the office. I think there would be repercussions for what Westbrook did. I don't think Kendrick Perkins would be fighting with Drake if there was some authority in the NBA.
I disagree.
Look, you're right. Stern ruled with an iron fist. But come on. Charles Barkley spit on a fan under David Stern's watch. And
got punished for it.
But stuff was happening. I mean, the Knicks and the Rockets in the finals, it was like a boxing match.
Mm-hmm.
The Malice in the Palace was under Stern's watch. Reggie Miller and Spike Lee, that was maybe fun, but Reggie Miller and Spike Lee going at it during the playoffs.
Kendrick Perkins ain't even dressed out.
You can't take that serious, though. That wasn't really what they blowing it up to be. That's just words between Drake and Perkins, which died right there. That's not a serious beat, but people respect what Chuck say. People listen to Chuck. You can't just say punch somebody. That's a whole different situation. Now, David Stern, you're right. He would jump into some stuff if it's beneficial for the league. But if it's a player that nobody really cares about, he's going to let that slide. So I agree with you to a certain extent. He put his foot down on certain stuff, but only when it was beneficial for the league, not just doing the right thing. He never did that.
I mean, even under Stern was still commissioner when Barkley said LeBron, who was the best player in the league, made a punk move.
Right.
That could have been detrimental to the league, and he still let that. I'm just saying.
That's more defensible than what he did last night. Right. I think the whole.
I agree, but I'm just saying Stern didn't jump on Barkley.
I tend to think, and I can't wait to hear what Chuck says tonight. I tend to think he's looking at Draymond, who had some antics going on in the first half when he was hot. I think Chuck sees himself, because that's what kind of blew me away is like, well, hold on, Draymond is kind of the modern-day Charles Barkley.
With less skill.
Yeah, it is and so I think Chuck sees himself in Draymond and inappropriately expressed some frustration with what Draymond was doing. It's like, damn, you're doing the same thing I was doing.
But Draymond does a lot of stuff that Chuck couldn't do, too. Like, you can't say he's just way more talented than Draymond. Draymond does stuff that Chuck couldn't do. He's a better passer, better teammate. Better teammate, better defender, yes.
Right. Better practice player, for sure. Charles didn't practice. All right, welcome back. Joined now by Super Bowl champ Greg Jennings. Let's move to the National Football League, where former 49ers safety Eric Reid has joined Colin Kaepernick and filed a grievance against the NFL, alleging that owners colluded to prevent him from getting a job as payback for his involvement in the national anthem protests started by Kaepernick back in 2016. Reid has remained unsigned since becoming a free agent in March, and the Players Association is standing behind him, saying, quote, "Our union's aware that Eric Reid and his legal reps filed a collusion claim, which will be heard through the arbitration process as spelled out in our collective bargaining agreement. Our union supports Eric, and we are considering other legal options to pursue." Whitlock, what's your reaction to this?
That NFL players, coaches, broadcasters love to say it's a privilege to play in the NFL, not a right. And then as soon as you don't get a job, you feel entitled. It's your, what do you mean? I'm not getting a job. It's my right to have a job. It is not your right. And as I've explained a million times, it's a television show. And if you decide to go off script in a way that the television producers and the networks, like, hey, that's not part of our script, and they decide to write you out of their script, don't come whining to me. Don't come complaining. It's a television show. That's all it is. It's not, everybody has been convinced because a group of liberals have been saying, oh, it's your platform. No, it's their platform. The NFL will go on long after Colin Kaepernick, long after Michael Bennett. It was here before them. It'll be here after them. So it's not their platform.
Well, he's the 43rd ranked free agent. If you went to a therapist, this sounds like what they call projecting, blaming others. It's like, I didn't get picked up. Well, you were the 43rd ranked free agent. In fact, the Niners at one point moved you to linebacker. So I don't buy into this. If you're political, the league doesn't want you. Malcolm Jenkins, Chris Long, and Michael Bennett. I mean, Michael Bennett's brand now is like political and football. And the best team in the league wanted him, and the Patriots bid on him, and he chose between the two best organizations in football. I don't believe if you kneeled, they're canceling you out. There's 35, 45 guys. Well, I say that. There's 100 guys that kneeled that are still in the league. So I don't buy that kneeling got you out of the league. If you're good, this league, Michael Bennett was unemployed for a minute. And Philadelphia's like, we'll take him. And the Patriots are like, we'll take him. And Bennett had his choice of where to go.
Yeah, I think it's beyond just the kneeling. And I think Eric Reid, he has a point in feeling like there's some collusion. Being able to prove that is a whole different thing. It's almost virtually impossible to prove that. His tie to Colin Kaepernick is why he is not on the team. Bottom line. When you think about what he did last November, the Players Coalition, he walked away from that. Got Malcolm Jenkins and Anquan Bolden, the co-founders, guys who were trying to sit down with league officials and make sure that there was some common ground to make this better for both player and league. He walked away from that because he felt like they were compromising. They were going to ask him, are you willing to stop kneeling if the league donates to a cause, your cause, whatever the case may be? He was unwilling to do those things. So I think it's a matter of him tying himself too closely to Colin Kaepernick. And is he a good player? He is a good player. Should he be on a roster? Possibly. But is he good enough to expend? No, I mean, yes. When you're under contract, I have to deal with you. When you're a free agent, look, I don't have to bring everything that you bring to the table politically, especially when it's against what we're trying to do as a league. And we're working with your counterparts, your colleagues, in fixing this whole deal. Yeah, it's uphill battle.
This whole thing started originally. His first comments about this, you go back a month or two ago, and it was, they think they can get me for cheap because I was part of the protest. This is about money and expectations. He's not getting the kind of financial offers he wanted, and then because he's played things too far to the extreme and his expectations are too high, people are like, man, I just don't want to be bothered. And again, he has a group of people clapping as he lights himself on fire, throws away his financial future. Right thing, Eric. Great job. Same thing they're telling Kaepernick as they light their careers and millions of dollars on fire, money they could have used to support the cause they believe in. People are sitting over, great job, guys.
One of the things you said, athletes look at their sport as a platform. So let's take an athlete and a Hollywood actor. Does he consider Broadway and the movie a platform? No. He does his charities before the movie and after. Okay, an athlete has actually more venues and avenues to go political. He's got a shoe company. He's probably got a bigger Instagram and Twitter account. He can come on shows like this. If an actor doesn't consider the movie a platform, you go on Broadway, I pay for the producers or rent. That's not your platform. Now, by the way, before there could be something you hand out in support. I've gone to concerts before, and I know, but when I go to U2 concerts, that stage is not their platform. They sing songs. Something happened where there's a lot of athletes that think, hey, this is my 3 hours a week that I have to tell you how I think, and I just think do it the 6.5 days before and the half day after the game.
Because they've been lied to by an agenda that one is after football and trying to change sports culture, and they've been lied to, and they believe the lie that 3 hours when they earn their money is the time to actually burn down your neighborhood and your business.
How would you have, if this would have gone on in your prime years, how would you have reacted to it?
That's a tough question. Honestly, I'm not sure. It's easy for me to sit back right now and say I would have knelt or I would not have knelt. I really don't know how I would have handled it. I know I'm not divisive. I'm not very divisive, but I want to get my point across. But to your point, there is a time and a place, and I always say that, sometimes with how this all started, what better platform could they have used? I don't know. But would I have done it? Possibly not. But back to Eric Reid, he went on a visit with the Bengals. And it's reported a question was asked to him by their owner, Mike Brown. Are you going to continue the protest of kneeling during the anthem? Do you know what his response was? What? I don't know. He didn't say no. He could have said no. He could have said, you know what? That's in the past. No, that's done. And then, even if he would have gotten signed, still did whatever he wanted to do, but sometimes
not willing to play the game.
No, exactly. You have to play the game. If you're going to do this, you got to play the game.
Everybody. Colin Cowherd has to play the game. I have to play the game. Everybody does. But again, we're lying to these athletes, and you don't have to play the game. Do whatever you want. Destroy your career, destroy your financial future for the cause.
Jason, there's no question that there's a sense in sports that the NBA owners and players are more aligned. Even they say, don't mess with our anthem.
Their TV show. All right, welcome back. Greg Jennings is back. We're joined now by the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to Tom Brady, who sparked a media firestorm this week by pleading the fifth when asked if he feels like the Patriots and Bill Belichick appreciate what he's done for them. Well, now he's sending some more cryptic messages, this time on Instagram, posting a picture of himself working out on the beach and quoting Muhammad Ali. He misspelled Muhammad, by the way, saying, quote, "The more real you get, the more unreal it gets." Cowherd, go into your brain and decipher this for us. What is Brady saying here?
Well, Tom has chosen a different vehicle for his message. He used to be on radio in Boston every Monday, every single Monday. And then that station said something about his daughter, and he's like, I'm out. And now he's chosen Instagram as his place to deliver messages. They're a little more cryptic, but Tom's always wanted his message out. Every single Patriot game, he'd go on and tell people, here's the way we're doing it in Boston. That was for like 10 years. Now he's, like a lot of us, chosen a social media platform to get his message out. I just think he's just said, you know what, this Instagram thing, it's a really good way. Show a little picture, have a little quote. People talk about me, I'm out there in that space.
The more real I get, the more unreal it gets. I can't figure this out because is this being real, this cryptic message? Is this being real? So I would, again, I have very few complaints about Tom Brady this offseason. I don't understand this one here. I guess he's saying the more I point out that Bill Belichick blew the Super Bowl, the more unreal the media's reaction is. Maybe
Let me offer some help, Jason. So basically, we want athletes to be honest. We demand candor from athletes. And then they're honest with us, as Brady was on this panel. And what happened? People are tearing him to shreds. Oh, my gosh, he hates Bill Belichick. So the more honest he is, the more unreal the reaction is. And I feel like people are maybe overreacting a little bit to this. I feel like,
he's right. I think that's right.
It feels like he was being honest and genuine. He didn't have to give this interview to Jim Gray, did he? He didn't have to.
That's
He's
pretty
like,
good
I'll
work
talk
there
to him.
by that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
It's simple. He's done being a yes man. Bottom line, you can like it however you want. A yes man, Tom Brady has always been that guy that Bill Belichick has been able to use as an example for free agents coming in, for draftees, for the entire organization. He's done with it. He can't use Tom Brady as an example to lure these guys into following suit because Tom Brady is done. He's older. He's feeling like
he can't do this to him
No. Ain't no more of this. He got out.
I think Jason. Mac. I think what you basically said though is he's just telling you, man, I'm honest, and you guys freak out, and that's kind of what's happening now.
I like Greg's theory. It's just slightly better, and that's maybe because I want to stir the pot. But I really do, because I think you're right. Listen, I've been complaining all summer. You got all these Belichick bots out in the media, and they all come on, and anything Bill Belichick does, they can explain. Tom Brady's not with that anymore. There's a different tone to Brady, and there's going to be a different tack taken with Belichick. Someone, Brady, I guess, is going to hold him accountable.
Yeah, he has been doing these, like, quotes of faith. I saw one during the season, and he had that warrior one during the playoffs. So, listen, as a, Instagram user, I'm not as prolific as Greg, although I do follow you. Sometimes you don't have any photos of the kids, or you don't have a football photo. You want to just get inspirational, and maybe that's what he was doing here. Just no deep, dark story behind it. He was just tossing up an inspirational quote.
I don't like to speak for somebody, but Tom Brady, man, I won these Super Bowls. I've been here for all these. These are mine, man.
To another future Hall of Famer, one of my favorites, Ben Roethlisberger. Big Ben's been hitting at retirement past couple of years, but after the Steelers drafted a possible successor in Mason Rudolph last week, Ben changed his tune entirely, saying, quote, I plan on being here for 3 to 5 more years. If he's going to be their guy, that's great, but in my perfect world, it's not going to be for a while. Whitlock, does Big Ben look desperate here?
Colin, do you know the slang thirsty?
Yeah.
He looks very thirsty here. Someone needs to get him a cup of water. He's run his mouth all that, I'm going to retire. I'm thinking about retiring. I got to take a moment. That was a shot at Mike Tomlin and Todd Haley. And so the Steelers said, oh, you might retire. Well, let's take a quarterback. And now he's backpedaling. Oh, I'm going to play 3 to 5 more years. He hasn't taken care of himself well enough to play 5 more years in the NFL.
You know what he looks like to me? Competitive. We know Garoppolo got the juices flowing in Brady. We kind of know, by the way, Steve Young with Montana. I mean, to me, I look at this and I think to myself, this is how, by the way, we just saw a guy in our business retire in New York, an hour later come back. You know, I mean, that's the...
Big Ben and Francesca. Huh?
No, but I mean, what I see is a guy be like, oh, you want to get me out of here? I did throw for 335 a game last 7 games last year and 3 touchdowns a game. I'm okay with athletes being competitive.
Yeah, I think this is beyond competitive. I think this is, in my opinion, very adolescent.
Whoa.
Yes, very immature on Ben. You're a 14, 15-year veteran quarterback, and somebody can entice you with the question that you give us all this, you give us the answer that everybody, number one, would love for you to give. Like your last, like Ben, he's a 3rd-round guy. Relax, and then you're the leader of our team, and we wonder why Antonio Brown feels the need that he's able to Facebook Live in the locker room, because your leader, your franchise quarterback, is always saying something about Mike Tomlin, always speaking out when things are supposed to be undisclosed. You're always disclosing information. Ben, stop.
Loose lips sink ships.
Greg, what is he supposed to say? I mean, what is the protocol when you're a quarterback and they just draft one? Because remember,
a 3rd-round guy?
Took Josh Dobbs out of Tennessee 2 years ago. They drafted Landry Jones from Oklahoma, I think 4 years ago. If smart teams like your Patriots continue to draft quarterbacks, they have the most currency. You can flip them for picks later on. That's what the Patriots have done. This isn't a bad move by the Steelers, and it's not a bad comment by Ben. He's saying what the answer to the question. That's his thoughts. I'm not going anywhere. What's wrong with that? Why are we killing him?
Let's say he's a little needy. LeBron isn't. Kobe wasn't.
Some
of these guys that move into the mogul stage, they get a little delusional. They get a little needy.
I do think he's being needy and adolescent. Big Ben has been my favorite player for years. I don't like this. He is diminishing himself the last few years. It refocuses. He threw that interception and then blamed the coaching staff. Things like that. Big Ben's not handling things well here. There's no reason to go. Mason Rudolph's no threat to him. And you shouldn't have been running your mouth last year about retirement because you weren't serious, clearly. Now you're going to play another 3 to 5 years. And this is a money grab. See, he wrote a check last year about retirement. Now that it's time to cash a check and maybe get a new contract, oh, I'm going to play 3 to 5 more years. Pay me some more money. I don't like it. All right, welcome to Speak for Yourself. I'm Jason Whitlock. Cowherd is off today. All right, former 49ers safety Eric Reid has joined his former teammate Colin Kaepernick in a war against the NFL. On Wednesday, the 26-year-old free agent DB filed a grievance against the league, charging that ownership is colluding to keep him out of the NFL. It's the same allegation Kaepernick has made. Reid, of course, kneeled during the playing of the national anthem alongside Kaepernick throughout the 2016 season. They said they were kneeling to draw attention to the issue of unpunished police brutality perpetrated against unarmed black men. With Kaepernick out of the league in 2017, Reid continued his protest all season, and he bickered publicly and privately with players who negotiated financial support from NFL owners in exchange for ending the divisive protests. As the young people would say, Kaepernick and Reid sacrificed everything for the culture. The culture is millennial slang for young black culture. It's a rebellious collective voice heard most strongly via social media. It rails against cultural appropriation, keeps a running scoreboard on black victimhood, resists the Trump administration, and takes great pride in being unapologetically woke. Its disciples believe they're the smartest people on the planet, and anyone who questions their point of view is either stupid or a sellout. Kaepernick is their Muhammad Ali. LeBron James and Michael Bennett are the culture's John Carlos and Tommy Smith. Here's my question to the athletes pledging unconditional allegiance to the culture. What has benefited us more, sports culture or the culture? Take a minute and think it through. Don't respond with your gut, and let me walk you through a bit of history. Jesse Owens' dominance at the 1936 Berlin Olympics dealt Hitler a devastating psychological blow and made a black man America's national hero. 2 years later, Joe Louis did the same thing, knocking out German Max Schmeling in the first round of the most important prize fight in history. Jackie Robinson's integration in Major League Baseball in 1947 sparked the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s. Since the Civil War, nothing has done more to emancipate black people than America's love affair with sports and the cultural icons sports creates. Jesse, Joe, Jackie opened more doors for black people than Muhammad Ali. Ali's eloquence and rebellion importantly inspired pride among black people, but Jesse, Joe, and Jackie opened America's eyes to how much better our country would be if black people were allowed to fully participate in our great democracy. Sports culture has been our modern-day Underground Railroad to the mainstream economic and educational opportunities. My senior year of high school, me and my father shared a 400-square-foot, one-bedroom apartment in the hood. I can remember the Ball State football coach coming to our apartment for me to sign my national letter of intent. That was my ticket to a college campus and a chance to elevate my status in America. That's the power of sports. Sports change lives. They change mine, they change LeBron James and countless other athletes who never get a whiff of a professional career. That's why it bothers me that so many black athletes today have so much reverence for and allegiance to a social media-driven culture as opposed to the very sports culture that transformed their lives. I'm not telling athletes to abandon having a social conscience and speaking out on tough social and racial issues. I'm saying don't be foolish in your actions and damage sports culture, the industry that has supported us the longest, most passionately, and most effectively. Kaepernick and Reed need to end their war on football, and we, black people, need to stop viewing football as our enemy. The culture is misleading us. All right, joining me now, two NBA players, Steven Jackson and Dante Jones, and a former NFL star, Greg Jennings. All right, guys, I want to discuss this. Someone help me understand why there's so much more passion, love, reverence for the culture among athletes than sports culture.
Well, first of all, let's define the culture. I think that's what we need to do first. I think people have their own definitions of the culture. Well, the culture is not just black. The culture is white, Mexican, whatever race you grew up around. You know, people, you say Kaepernick, you compare him to Ali. And in some type of way, he is, because they both stand for what they believe in, but the stakes for Ali was way higher. Kaepernick don't have that much to lose. All they're saying is you can't play football. It's different, but they're both standing up for what they believe in. You got to respect that. It's different generations and different times, so it's different cultures. You have to understand that the culture, when we grew up, our moms and culture, is different from how we grew up. We didn't grow up with our grandmother speaking to us. You need to do this, you need to do that. Our moms was a little light on us. You know, we didn't grow up in the social media era. You know, it's different. The culture is different. So, like I said, it's different generations of culture.
Who's done more for you, sports or the culture?
I
the
say,
suit you wearing, the house your mama's living in.
Right.
Who did that? The culture or sports?
I have them both side to side for the simple fact that the culture, my mom telling me how to treat people right and wrong, I can sit up here and say, I know how to treat people the way I want to be treated because I was taught that. Okay? Basketball, I never been in trouble. The culture took care of me growing up. As soon as I get to the NBA, the same bright lights that pay you can make you that same monster. But people don't understand that.
You guys are saying the same thing, but from two different sides. I think you both are correct in the sense that sports has given us the platform to be able to say how we feel and make that relevant to our communities and the things that be able to affect and create change. We do have the responsibilities as athletes to not affect that platform, that source of wealth that we can affect change, and that ability to be in front of so many people to give them the inspiration to be able to go and do great things in this world. So, as having that much responsibility, we do have to not affect our bottom line and not be in those households, on those TVs, by not thinking before we act. We have to take the organizations into hand and be able to work with the organizations to be able to get out the voice that we do have and the things that we do want to get
I hear
society.
everybody talking about the platform that sports has given. And I think they've got it all wrong, because when my mama is sitting in a house and driving a car and watching a TV right now that sports gave her.
But that's only one thing sports gave her. Sports, we do not, as athletes, we do not take on the inspiration that sports gave you as well. I gave Steve the example of, there was a little girl that came up to me in church and said, you know what? I followed you. You're from where I'm from. We're in Los Angeles together, but you're from my home city. You have given me inspiration by coming back, by playing in the D-League, by win a championship, to just continue on in life. That inspiration is as big as what you can do with your wealth. So as athletes, we have that platform as well. That platform to them see you strive, to see you fall, to see you pick yourself up again, that is as big as the wealth part of it. So we inspire more than we do anything as well.
More's not built off money. Okay. More's not built off money.
I'm not reducing it all to money.
When I read this article, I thought to myself, man, this is awesome of Jason. He's using his platform, his influence, to showcase and to share his voice and his opinion. I should applaud him for that. That is amazing. The same thing that these young men are doing. There is no war against football. There is no war against sport.
Are you kidding me?
There is no war against sport. No, the war is not against sport, because if it was against sport, they wouldn't be trying to get back into that sport that they have been knocked out of. No, it has not. In reading this, you said
NFL ownership and the NFL as some racist, evil monster is bogus and BS in comparison to all these other industries.
Why? Because they hired them?
No. In comparison to all the other industries, I don't see actors or other people demonizing Hollywood the way they try to do football and other sports and owners and things like that. We've done better in this industry than any of the other ones.
See, and that's the problem. We always try to concern ourselves and draw comparisons to other areas in life and other different platforms. No, we're talking about sport, and we're talking about the culture. You want to talk about why these guys are doing it? They're doing it for themselves. They're doing it because this is what they believe in. They're not doing it because, oh, let me do this to make sure that I fit in. Yeah, does it give them a couple stripes? Possibly, but you think that they're thinking about when they standing up for what they believe, what they believe, they're thinking, I'm going to sacrifice everything. No, they're not thinking that it's going to just take away my opportunity to perform, to be given this opportunity that I've always had. They're not thinking that, but they're thinking, I want to share what I feel is right.
But unfortunately, as athletes, we have the responsibility to think that it could possibly go that way, and that it could affect how we take care of our families. Listen.
You got to be willing to take that.
No. You can take that.
But
I think you can take it in a more responsible fashion. I'm not saying he's wrong for doing what he's doing. However, we have a responsibility to think before we act, because we have things at stake here.
Well,
time out. So Jason thought about how he wanted to present this. It wasn't just a haphazard. He didn't come out and say, off his chest, blah, blah, blah. He took time and presented it correctly. I think we have a responsibility to package it the correct way to be able to continue to do what we love to do.
He talked to a Green Beret and asked him, how could I go out here and get my point across without disrespecting you and the flag if people don't know? And he told him the best way to do it is to kneel. He asked how to do it first. He didn't just do it, just go out there.
Absolutely.
He asked. Steve, let's just keep it all the way 100.
That's 100.
Let's don't pretend like we've never seen a Kaepernick before. This is what bothers me about. Let me finish. This is what bothers me about a Kaepernick.
We haven't.
Yes.
Who? Go ahead.
I've seen plenty of Kaepernicks.
Go ahead.
Guys that didn't grow up around black people. A black dude that didn't grow up around black people that tries to do too much to show how black he is.
How do you know if he grew up around black people?
Steve, he was
Did you grow up with him?
He was abandoned by his parents. It's all been written about.
That's assuming.
That's not assuming. He was abandoned by his parents and adopted by white folks and grew up in the suburbs.
So you mean to tell me a kid that's adopted ain't around biracial people?
So he can't just be doing this because this is what he believes is right?
I've seen it a million times. Yeah, he does think it's right, but he's also doing too much trying to get his black credibility over social media and be down with the culture. He didn't think it through.
This has nothing to do with black credibility.
I don't believe it has to do with black credibility. I just just think he has to be able to take the time to compact what he has, how he wants to create change.
No.
And think about it in a responsible manner first before how he puts it out.
No, hold on.
I didn't say it was irresponsible. What I'm saying
is the problem.
We as athletes have to convey the message in the most responsible way, because obviously sports is as important to him as his message. He would not be working out right now. The hardest thing to do, as you know, is to work out every day without a goal, without a start date or an end date. He doesn't have that right now. So he works at football, trying to get back and play football, because that's his love, that's his passion. However, he's conflicted with his passion for life and his passion for what he wants to do. Time out. He still wants to play football. He would have kicked football to the curb if he does not want to play football. But I think that he can have both, and I think we as athletes can have both. We can have our social, and we can convey to society how we feel and what the change that we want to affect. We have that ability. Right. We should do what he's doing, but in a way to be able to save the industry that we. No. They can't tell us, but we can. But we can take
Dante,
the time.
here's my problem with this.
To work together, because if you work together, you cannot. You cannot do things by butting heads. You always have to work together. Collective responsibility.
So the owners, I'm talking about the owners right now, because this whole idea of colluding against these two players. Yep. The owners, are you saying that they're doing it for the sports culture only and not their culture?
No, they're doing it because they're running a business. They're in it to make money. And these guys have taken actions that have hurt their business. And so they've moved on from that. That's any business has a right to do. You work here. Mm-hmm. If ownership decides to cut to commercial break right now, there's not a damn thing you can do about it.
Right.
And so every rule, every job has rules and regulations and things that are best for the business. Every owner has a right to demand and stipulate those things. For the 3 hours they're playing football, this is what they want to happen. All the 21 other hours during that day, you can do what the hell you want to do.
But one monkey don't stop no show.
The reason why I'm bringing the owners up is because they're doing it to save face as well. Because if it takes one owner to bring one of these guys in and say, I'll sign you, but you know what these other owners are going to look at them like? What are you doing?
They just signed Michael Bennett.
No, Michael Bennett, no.
He was doing it too.
He's doing it in a different style, a different form, a different fashion. Just like you tried to talk about Jesse Owens, Jackie Robinson, and putting them against Muhammad Ali. It's not. Yes, you're basically saying which these guys did it the right way. Muhammad Ali didn't.
I did not say that. Because I don't have a problem with what Muhammad Ali did.
It's completely how you look at it.
Kaepernick is doing anything remotely
right now. In the society we're living in, we have young people who are going to look at this and say, man, I can stand up the way these guys are, because they don't know about Muhammad Ali. They don't know what he did. They don't know what Jackie Robinson did. So there's always going to be somebody that's going to have to stand for what they believe is right.
The conversation is different between the two sports. We take Colin Kaepernick, we take LeBron James. They both stand up for what they believe in. Am I correct?
Right.
However, the organizations handle it totally different. Adam Silver said, you know what? I see the problem. Let's work together. He never demonized them for wearing T-shirts. He never demonized them for speaking out. He worked with his athletes to be able to create a collective.
You can't kneel under that
to create a collective agenda. So you can speak out and we can keep the product together. Roger Goodell never took any responsibility for the situation and said, yes, what he's standing for is wrong.
NBA
However,
has a rule that you can't kneel under.
They let the negative perception permeate against Colin Kaepernick, which is wrong.
That's what they do. They do a great job of not having the guys that will kneel in the NBA.
You were in the NBA. You had an opportunity to kneel, and you didn't.
No, I didn't, because that wasn't going on then.
So you were a follower.
No.
You're not a leader. You were a follower.
No. He wasn't during the time.
When I was with the Clippers, right? I made a song and came out. The only one that made a song and a video about that situation. So I did speak up, and that's why I never got another job. Let's be real. That's why I never got a job, because I came out with a video with Scarface about that situation, talking about the NBA. That's why I'm not in the NBA, and that's what the real is. So I did speak out.
And who are we to say, to judge somebody by what they're willing to sacrifice and what you're not willing to sacrifice? It's just like saying, like the slaves that chose to survive and jump in the Atlantic Ocean, or and those who were saying, I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to endure.
Greg.
We appreciate them both. We can draw parallels to both.
The guys that jumped off the boat died. They chose death. Kaepernick has jumped off the boat but said, send me a life preserver. I'm going to sue y'all if y'all don't put me back up on this boat.
No, they didn't. They didn't choose. They didn't. It wasn't that they chose death. It wasn't that they chose death. They chose not to endure and go through what they knew was ahead of them, and that's not.
Not to endure and go through what?
I'm not, and I can't judge them for that.
Millions of dollars the NFL was paying them. Oh boy, what a hardship.
No,
Colin Kaepernick got out over his skis. He didn't think it through. He's not standing on anything. I hate the comparison to Muhammad Ali because no one wants to deal with the fact Muhammad Ali was backed by Malcolm X, the Nation of Islam, and Elijah Muhammad, a religious sect. Colin Kaepernick is out here with his girlfriend and Twitter. And that ain't near a bit of substance to what he did. And he's hurting the NFL. He's got a bunch of followers all applauding him as he burns himself up and hurts the NFL. And this is stupid for us as black men to sit here and watch the NFL or any of these sports leagues that we've been dominant in and have given us opportunities. I never even got a drop of NFL. I barely played in the Mid-American Conference. But I know what football did for me, and I know what sports has done for all of you. And we need to quit acting like sports is somehow the enemy and the culture and everybody applauding us over Twitter is more important than sport.
But the people who's taught me how to treat people and on my road to the NBA mean just as important to me as a game. People mean more important to me than a game. I'm sorry.
Hey, my mother.
It's just
football doesn't mean more to me than my mother, father, sister, brother, a bunch of folks. But I'm not going to sit by idly and watch people attack football and sports when we don't fully realize
nobody's attacking it.
That's where
if Ben Farr's attacking it, then we need to change that definition.
They're not attacking football. This is not a war against football.
And smearing the
because they won't give them an opportunity to play any longer.
They shouldn't have blown. All right, welcome back to the show. Greg Jennings is back. We're joined now by Super Bowl champion Dwight Freeney and the founder of the Big Lead, Jason McIntyre. Let's move to Matt Ryan, who just signed a massive 5-year deal with the Falcons worth $30 million per year with $100 million guaranteed. Both are NFL records, dwarfing the mega deal signed by Kirk Cousins and Jimmy Garoppolo this offseason. Gentlemen, I don't have a problem with it. I like Matt Ryan. He was the MVP 2 years ago. He had a bad season. I think it was because I didn't like the offensive coordinator this past year. I'm putting the blame, Sarkisian, I'm putting the blame all on him. I think he'll rebound. I think when Kirk Cousins got the money that he got, you got no choice but to start paying these quarterbacks that are better and more proven all this money.
Without question. I'm all in with this. This is bravo. I love it for the simple fact that these guys, quarterbacks, they run your team. We understand that this is a quarterback-driven league. We all know this. These guys do the majority of the work. Matt Ryan, I struggle with his production last year because he has to be more consistent regardless of offensive coordinator, play calls. You have to demand more of yourself and of your team. And that's the only knock I have on Matt Ryan. Other than that, I mean, this is a great deal for the league, great deal for Matt Ryan and other players.
Well, obviously, I played with Matt. And I know what Matt actually put in and day out. Tremendous athlete, tremendous student of the game. I think last year wasn't his greatest year. We all seen that statistically, but it was also a tough year for him. You know, he went from a great coordinator the year, Shanahan. He was very comfortable in that system. And all of a sudden you switch systems and now all of a sudden maybe things don't, blend as well. Does that make him a worse athlete? Did it make him a worse, competitor? No, it's just that it wasn't his greatest of years. But I think it's well-deserved, hats off to him. I'm happy for him, It's great.
Hey, whether it is a house, franchise, a quarterback, you are what the market says you're worth. And if Matt Ryan were to hit the market, he would definitely get $30 million. So I think it's a great move by the Falcons. I do want to say one thing. He's turning 33 years old, I believe, this month. They just added Calvin Ridley in the draft, who's a top-flight receiver. If this team doesn't get back to a Super Bowl, I think then Matt Ryan has to accept a lot of the blame because there's people in the NFL that would argue he's maybe the third best quarterback in his division. Okay, and he's now getting $30 million a year.
Who are the other two?
Well, Drew Brees is in there and Cam Newton. You're talking about two top-flight quarterbacks. I'm just saying, Matt Ryan has got to deliver. They got to win a Super Bowl. You're getting $30 million a year. I want to see a Super Bowl.
You know, the next guys up are Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers. But when I hear this number, I actually think of Tom Brady, who has always taken a little less money throughout his career. And I wonder what this contract will do to Tom Brady in terms of he seems to be at a crossroads with Bill Belichick and the organization a little bit. Someone just got $100 million guaranteed. If I'm Tom Brady, I got to sit there and come holler at me.
Well, I think that, Tom's already made, he's at 40-plus years. He's 40 years old plus, understand? And I think he understands that, look, I have my championships. I've made my money. I want to make this team great. I think that's what it is with Tom, is that he understands those things, whereas though I don't need to be the highest paid quarterback in the league. He's willing to sacrifice a little bit of certain things to win because winning is more important.
Right. You know that's not how it works. That is not how it works. Look, not for them quarterbacks either. Yes, you have a great point there. And with everything that's been transpiring over in New England and with Tom Brady's approach, I think he is going to be like, what? I'm done just taking less when everyone's calling me the GOAT. I think he's feeling himself a little bit, and I can't knock him for doing so.
Wait, it's like a guy at 41 years old is going to ask for Matt Ryan type money?
Has he fell off? Has he fallen off? Has he fallen off?
We will see this season.
No. We can say that about Matt Ryan as well, who just signed a $30 million deal.
33 years old, MVP 2 years ago.
The league doesn't work in a way of the older you get, the more money you get. It just doesn't happen that way. Regardless,
I get that.
Listen, regardless of the position, and I don't know, you name one position right now, I can't, where you're 40 years old and you're going to make more than that guy who's 30 years old or 29 at that position or 28. Now, regardless of the fact that, hey, we can sit here and argue and say, hey, Brady is the best quarterback in the league and all, hey, great. But is he going to get more than the highest paid quarterback in the league right now? I don't think so.
We got to go. I want to check Tom Brady's Instagram. All right, welcome back. Steven Jackson and Dante Jones are back. We're joined now by Fox NBA analyst Chris Broussard. Let's move to Houston, where the Jazz stunned the Rockets last night. And not just with that insane dunk by Donovan Mitchell. Utah jumped out to a huge lead and then hung on for dear life to steal home court advantage from the top seed Houston. After the games, James Harden admitted his team lost focus.
We came out a little too lax days ago. We were just, kind of going through the motions or whatnot. But, at the end of that second quarter, third quarter, we picked it up. And, it's a pretty good team down there. So if we give any team, especially in the postseason, that kind of confidence, it's pretty tough.
And we can correct our energy and we can correct the necessary focus that we need to have. And, you get lulled into sleep. You think this stuff's easy. It's not easy. It's the NBA. It's semifinals. It's not easy. And we kind of lulled into it, and we paid for it.
Confident sound like, right?
I'm not, I'm just
confident.
I'm just as confident as D'Antoni. I'm not going to overreact because I don't think we learned anything last night. I knew Quinn Snyder was a better coach than Mike D'Antoni. Mm-hmm. That's what happened.
Right.
I feel like they were lackadaisical. I think they'll recover. I didn't even really like the way Utah closed out the game. I thought they were sloppy and took some bad shots early in the shot clock, did some dumb things. Quinn Snyder's a hell of a coach. Joe Ingles was hot as hell last night. Great. I still think Houston takes back control of this series and wins in 5.
Yeah, Houston definitely has the better player in James Harden. But I look at another note yesterday in the game. Utah did something that no other team has done to James Harden. They found one guy in O'Neal. Your whole focus is to annoy James Harden. As a basketball player, as a defender, we both defenders. We know. Great scorers, you cannot stop them. What you did me all the time, just ignore him. Even if they get 30, make it the toughest 30 they ever got in their life. James was struggling. He was pushing off, got some offensive fouls, got in foul trouble. I think the way they played defense, that was, like I said, it was all coaching. It was all coaching, but the way they played defense was definitely the reason why they won their game.
It made him think about not playing basketball at that point in time. Now he was just thinking about how to get their collective defenders back.
Right.
And They put them in a situation where you got to go play 2 games in Utah, and that's one of the best home court advantages in basketball. They don't get enough credit. Quinn has his team peaking at the right time. Like this whole playoff situation in basketball is about peaking at the right time and the right matchup. These guys are real, and they're getting better as games go on. They're not plateauing. They're getting better, and you're finding out different ways and they can win. They're junking the game up, and they're not relying on one thing. They have different options. Donovan Mitchell's been leading them, but different guys step up. They defend, and they have a great coach. They're dangerous. This is not a definitive situation where we can say.
So you think this game last night was significant?
I think it was significant because they even played better against Golden State if that's where they got to go after this. Like they're 3-1 against Golden State, Utah during the season.
Any win on the road in the
playoffs. So
big.
getting home court advantage back is tough because we didn't even count them in and beating OKC. Everyone is in consensus about OKC, but what they did is they proved that they can play. They're for real. They have a star and they can defend. Yeah. And that makes them dangerous in the series.
Utah is for real. I'm still sticking with Houston to win the series. But look, Mike D'Antoni has the lowest playoff win percentage among active coaches in the last 25 seasons. And last night we saw why. I mean, we've seen it time and time again. He has a lack of attention to detail. Look at his comment after the game. Energy, focus. Lulled into sleep. Like, where the detail? Where's the strategy? And Quinn Snyder, he doesn't make adjustments. Pop would outcoach him when he was in Phoenix. Quinn Snyder's going to outcoach him now. God forbid if they get to the next round, he's going to get outcoached by Steve Kerr because you guys know better than me. Playoffs are about adjustments, right? Yes. Game to game. Yes. Is Mike D'Antoni making any adjustments?
I don't think he has.
He's like, this is how we play.
It's their style.
We're going to win or lose this
Are we
way.
all letting Chris Paul and James Harden off the hook? They don't have a great playoff resume either.
Well, and that's been the thing. You know, James has been great in regular season the last couple of years and getting to the playoffs and having letdowns. Yeah. Neither one of them are champions. Nobody over there is champion. So I expected that game to be better than what it was. I expect them to come out and try to end Utah, and they didn't. Going to Utah, they have problems now because you're giving this young team confidence. And like he said, it's hard to win in Utah. It's hard.
Chris Paul, to your point, 9 turnovers in the first 2 games. I mean, Chris is one of the most sure-handed point guards ever in the regular season. But
that
now
turnover late in the game against Gobert.
That was big.
Against Gobert.
That was
Utah has found a way to turn him over and to be defensively efficient against a high-powered offensive team. That's going to be tough. That's going to be a tough mountain to climb. I'm not saying it can't happen, but you need adjustments to be able to climb that mountain. And you don't have the best coach for adjustments, so you're in a tough situation.
You can't come out in the press conference and be like, well, we didn't really play. You know, we just knew we blew them our last game, so we just came out, just thought we was going to blow them again. They're not that good. That's really what he wanted to say. We just feel like we can come out and beat them on our worst day.
That's basically
and that's how they played. And that's basically what he said.
Joe Ingles.
No respect.
Joe Ingles, I think he hit 7 threes last night.
They had
That's not happening.
Like Larry Bird.
But that needed to happen.
At home? Them shots fall at home.
Right, that needed to happen on the road to get you that win.
Yes.
Now you can be the Joe Ingles, and then you're going to have other people step up because you're at home. You have the confidence of the home crowd. So Joe Ingles needed that performance just for the road game. It's going to even out when we get back to Utah with the elevation as well.
Are you picking Utah?
I'm not.
I would pick Utah in this situation only because they got this game. Wow. I think they're dangerous at home. So
Yes.
I'm counting 2 games at home. Now Houston's going to have to do something that I don't necessarily think they can do is take home court advantage back from them. They may take that next game in Houston. Right, but then you got to come back in Utah and play again, and that is the hard part. That's where they put them in a bind.
All right, to Toronto, where the Raptors will try to rebound tonight after turning a double-digit lead in Game 1 into an overtime loss, as DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry vanished down the stretch. Yesterday, DeRozan was asked about his team's mood after blowing that game.
We should have won. We should have had that game and was more so like, damn, now we got to wait to redeem ourselves, to get this feeling off us. All of the confidence hasn't went anywhere. If anything, it heightened to even want to get back out there. If we had the opportunity to come out and play tonight, we would have played tonight.
I've got a weird take on this series. I think Cleveland's and LeBron's gonna embarrass them again tonight, but I still think it's a 6 or 7 game series. I love Cleveland in the business suits, on the road, with a business mentality. they had one of the worst records at home, Cleveland did, against the spread all during the regular season. I like them better on the road, completely focused. I think LeBron tonight is going to be desperate because I think he wants rest, and he'd like to end this series as soon as possible.
This next game is Game 7 for both teams. If Toronto loses this game, it's a sweep. Confidence-wise, they're in the tubes. If Cleveland wins this game, they know they can take this whole series. So this is the most important game of the series for Toronto because they lose all confidence if they lose this next game. They have the environment in Toronto. It's basically USA versus Canada when you play at Toronto in a playoff game. However, they have to take advantage of it. If they can't get this game, you're in a bind. You can't come back from that.
The worst thing in the world happened to Toronto that could happen. LeBron have a bad game, the bench players get a rhythm, and they win. They're in trouble now. You didn't let J.R. Smith, KK Love, you didn't let all these guys to get a rhythm. You D'd up LeBron well last game. He had a tough game, and they were still able to win. LeBron ain't going to play bad tonight. No, he's going to come out and have a crazy game. And if J.R. and K-Love hitting, they don't have a chance.
Yeah, look, I think Cleveland can beat them in 5 if they want. Cleveland gets complacent. You were on the team. You know they get complacent at times, I think. I think now even more so, even in games against Indiana. I thought there were games in that series where Cleveland would get out to a big lead and then kind of let their foot off the gas. Next thing you know, it's a 2-point game, it's a 3-point game, and they have to play big. I think they'll probably let go a little bit. They're saying in their minds they want to go out and win and go up 2-0, but I think they'll let go a little bit, and that's why they could lose and let them back in the series.
Let me throw a curveball at you all. We didn't prepare for this, but I just want to throw it. You're calling this a Game 7, most important game for Toronto. If Toronto loses tonight and gets embarrassed in this series, does Toronto need to mark Jackson, Dwayne Casey, and say he can't get us to the next level? We need to bring another coach in here?
Well, you got to put some of that ownership on the players too now. You know, the coach can only do so much. Now, I was one guy that said, you know, I think this is going to be DeMar DeRozan come-out party. You know, they got up 20. I thought he was good enough to go out there and finish the game for them. The Stars is letting us down, too. So if you want to talk about the coach letting us down, let's talk about the players, too.
They don't have a superstar. You know, I mean, generally to get to the conference finals, you need a superstar. It happens occasionally if you don't have one, but they don't have that. Every superstar they've had, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, Chris Bosh, they've left. So they just got a bunch of guys that'll be happy in Toronto. DeMar is a star. I wouldn't say superstar. Lowry has become a star, but man, he was a journeyman before he got to Toronto, and then everybody else is guys from different countries that'll be happy there. I don't know much that they can do other than be a good, solid team and their fans be happy with getting in the playoffs.
I agree with you. They don't have a guy in the fourth quarter that can dominate a game and take the game home for them, especially against LeBron James. That's their weakness. That's their kryptonite. That's the person that they can't. That's the team and the person they can't get over.
That's the whole league.
But some teams have adjustments and coaching.
Somebody jump in front of this bullet. Do they have better personnel than Utah? And Utah is taking on the top team in the league right now. Does Toronto have better personnel than Utah?
No.
Gobert is
Defensive Player of the Year. Might be Defensive Player of the Year. You got Donovan Mitchell.
Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year. Possibly
Rookie of the Year.
That's too. That was a bad question.
And Snyder, look.
It wasn't no Andrew Wiggins who played it. It wasn't that bad.